Calling all dads. This one's specifically for you. Now, all parents are welcome. Moms, you can be here too. But today I'm getting to talk to highly successful entrepreneur, Gino Barbaro. Now, Gino has everything from real estate to restaurants. He has 4 very successful podcasts on his own and with a partner and with his spouse. But one of the things Gino doesn't get to talk about is being a dad. So today on this episode of the Fallible Man podcast, we're talking about being dads, but we're specifically talking about girl dads because Gino has 6 kids and 5 of them are girls. I don't get to talk about being a dad near enough for my taste. I have 2 daughters, Gino has 5, and in this episode, we're specifically talking about being a girl dad. Everything we're going to cover is going to apply to all your children, but this is something that Gino and I were looking forward to because it's not something we get to go down the road on very often. By the end of this episode, I promise you will understand how to connect with your daughters better, you'll understand how to communicate with your daughters better, and how to raise them to be the strong, independent women you want them to be. Guys, I'm really excited about this episode. Gino was so much fun to talk to. The laughs came easy. I can't tell you enough. The next hour is going to be so good for you and your children. I promise. So let's get into it. Here's the $1 million question. How do men like us reach our full potential, growing to the men we dream of becoming while taking care of our responsibilities, working, living, being good husbands, fathers, and still take care of ourselves? Well, that's the big question. And in this podcast, we'll help you with those answers and more. My name is Brent, and welcome to the Fallible Man Podcast. Welcome to the Fallible Man Podcast, your home for all things man, husband, and father. Big shout out to Fallible Nation. Those are long-time listeners, and we would love for you to join that group. And a warm welcome to our first-time listeners. Hey, there is a lot competing for your attention these days, so we really appreciate from our hearts that you would take the time to give us a chance. Be sure and connect with me at the Fallible Man on most social medias, especially where I'm active on Instagram. Let me know what you thought of the show. I'd love to hear what you think about it. And if you really enjoyed it, share it with a friend who needs it, or leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. That helps us get in front of more people. My name is Brent, and today my special guest is investor, entrepreneur, podcaster, and father, Gino Barbaro. Gino, I'm sure I butchered that. Welcome to the Fallible Man Podcast.
Brent, thanks for having me. This is like, I had to go look up the word fallible, and the word fallible means capable. I'm sure you know what it means. Capable of making mistakes or being erroneous. So I am in the right place this morning. Just want to let you know, thanks for having me on. I am in my new home right now. So how you doing?
Awesome. Well, it's early morning here, and I'm only halfway through a cup of coffee. So we'll see. The interview will get better as we go, guys. I promise. More caffeine. Do you know, how is your trivia skills?
Trivia skills? Well, we'll see.
and you know, for fair full disclosure, I picked the most random questions I can find that I don't think you're going to know. So, in the TV show New Girl, which actress plays Jessica Day? Is it A, Zooey Deschanel, B, Kaylee Cuoco, I can never say her name right, C, Jennifer Aniston, or D, Allison Hagen?
I have no idea what you're talking about. I'll go with Zoe. A.
Okay, we'll put that down there. Now, guys, you know the rules. Don't cheat. Don't look ahead. Make your guess. For God's sake, don't write it down if you're driving, because I know a lot of you listen to this in the car, and we'll come back to that later. Gino, I don't do huge introductions. No one gives a crap. Today, in this moment, in your own words, who is Gino Barbaro?
Father of 6 kids. We homeschool. Started a restaurant back in 1994. Been making payroll since 1994. That's a long time. Left the restaurant in 2016. Started investing with my business partner, Jake, in 2011 in apartments. We scaled up to over 1,700 units. Don't know how that happened. Buy one a deal a year. And I would just also say that I'm someone who's dedicated to raising my kids, and I want to leave a real legacy for them, not just of wealth and not just of money, but a legacy where when I think of legacy, I think of passing on my values and passing on what I've learned to them, and I want them to pass it on to their kids.
All right. What's your best dad joke?
Best dad joke. I would just say, how do you know Jesus was Irish?
How?
He had 12 drinking buddies. He lived at home his whole life, and his mother thought he was God.
I've never heard that one.
Really? I'm surprised. My wife is Irish, so I can say that joke. So
my daughter actually went to the bookstore, a used bookstore, and found a book of dad jokes recently. Came home, She went to visit her grandparents with my wife on spring break and came back. She's like, Dad, I got a whole book of dad jokes. It's like, is it that obvious? Am I that far gone? Gino, deep question here. Is cereal soup?
Cereal is not soup.
No?
No. I eat dry cereal. Don't need the milk. Go right for the carbs without the milk.
Okay. What is the worst song ever?
Let it go, let it go. I've heard that song so many damn times. Can you let this song go, please?
Said every father with children under a certain age ever. Whatever the worst song is, whatever Disney song they're pushing right now.
Yes.
Because we've all heard it so many times.
Yes.
What purchase of $100 or less have you made in the last year that's had the biggest impact on your life?
Well, let me say Podmatch. I joined Podmatch, and I never would have been on this podcast if it wasn't for being on there. For 60-something bucks a month, it is worth being on there. You are meeting tons of different guys and women who have these amazing shows. Big shout out to Alex. He's done a great job.
Lots of love to Alex from here. Alex and I've been on Podmatch for a long time now, so I lots of love to Alex. It's my go-to for any great guest. Favorite dessert?
Well, I'm Italian, so I'd have to say tiramisu. If it's made really well, when you dip the little cookies in the espresso, you make that nice cream, you let it sit for a little while, I can have a nice tiramisu.
Do you make that?
Mom used to make it, and now the kids make it. Yeah, but listen, I've got to keep the figure. I'm pushing 54 years old here, so I really try to stay away from desserts. Actually, be honest with you, my favorite all time, if you can make a really good bread pudding, for some reason, bread pudding when it's warm, it is delicious. So I have to go an Italian one, and then I go with the bread pudding.
Well, I'm tiramisu is amazing, I think, but finding someone who can actually make it. So you've got a good recipe after the show.
You got it.
Send that my way. I have a recipe book, but I only put really great recipes in there. I'll try something like that doesn't make the cut. But I like to cook with my daughters. So
love it.
If I was to sit down at dinner with your family, what is their go-to funny story they would tell to try and embarrass you?
I have to think about that one. It's every day. I do something stupid every day. So not one story pops up. I don't know. As far as embarrassing, I've had this Jake and Geno community for years. So I would say just getting up in front of people and singing opera. That probably makes them a little bit uncomfortable. They're like, Dad, really? You got to start screaming and singing opera? And yes, that's probably would make them a little bit uncomfortable.
I was a preacher's kid, so we were constantly the examples when my dad was preaching.
Yes.
Growing up in that life, and just to be sitting in church on Sundays, my friends just like elbowing me. I'm like, shut up. We were the examples for everything. There was no sacred stories. So. Yeah. What is something everybody needs to know about you before we dig in today?
I think my life transformed, and I think this can help a lot of people out there, when I became 100% responsible. In 2008, when the Great Recession hit, I was looking around and I was blaming everybody. I was like, the economy's terrible. Bush is terrible. Obama's terrible. Those may be the cases, but there was other people out there making millions of dollars, and why wasn't I? And I read the book by T. Harv Eker, The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. And in the book, he talks about your fruits are in your roots. Well, I had shallow roots at the time. I wasn't providing value. I didn't have enough skills. And I said, from now on, all the results that I've had up to this point in my life, they're mine. I need to own them. How do I get better going forward? So I think for anybody out there, if you're around people who are victims or always blaming other people, it gets to be tiring after a while. And it's a toxic environment. And it's okay to be a victim sometimes. You're in the grieving process. You lost a friend. You lost a big account. I don't mean that, but you can't dwell on it. And once I became responsible, everything changed. I had control. I had hope. And I think for those of you out there, if you become responsible, life will change. Your life will transform.
I love it. Guys, we've been getting to know Gino just a little bit, who he is, what makes him tick, what he's like. In the next part of the show, we're going to dive into raising daughters, aka being a girl dad. Now, before we do that, I'm going to discuss for just a moment. I'm taking my guest into different waters than he normally talks about. Gino runs 4 podcasts with his partner and one with his spouse. You'll have to clarify that in a minute. And is into multi-tenant investing. But I'm going to let you tell us a little bit about that, just so we can get a background and understanding of who you are and what you do before we dive into talking about daughters.
Brent, in 2011, I met my business partner, Jake, and I was looking for a side hustle. I already had the restaurant, so I didn't want to fix and flip homes. So I'm like, what do I do that I can make money on the side and not have another job? And that's what led me to multifamily, which is just buying apartments. We bought our first apartment back in 2013. It was a 25-unit property. And then we bought another one 3 months later, and then another one 6 months later. And then within 5 years, my business partner and I, we had almost 700 units. And at that point, we decided to start Jake and Geno. And it's just an education company that teaches people to buy multifamily, people who invest in apartments. It's a nice sized community. And then from there, we just started podcasts. We started the Jake and Geno show. We have a how-to show on how to buy multifamily. We have a movers and shakers, which is just interviewing our students. Our students have closed over 80,000 units. So we highlight them on the movers and shakers. And then the show that I really like is the Julia and Geno show. And that's when me and my wife get together. It's like a weekly therapy show for me and her. And we just started a family coaching podcast, a 10-minute show every week, talking about different skills that you need to raise kids, whether it's awareness, whether it's listening, whether it's asking questions, whatever that may be. So we've really branched off to the educational community, and we want to really create a community of like-minded people who want to raise families, who want to create wealth, who want to create legacy, pass it on to their kids.
Now, guys, what I'm going to say is I thought about having a whole conversation on how to start investing in multi-tenant homes, because I know some of you are interested in investing, and I wholeheartedly endorse that. This is a conversation I will have with Geno later on my own behalf, because I think investing in property is incredibly intelligent. But I thought the better solution is go listen to his podcast, because I listened to it before the show. I listened to several of your episodes, and there's a wealth of knowledge there. And if that is something you want to do, if that's something you're interested in, you need to go listen to what these guys are talking about. They will literally teach you how to do this on the show. It's amazing. Mm-hmm. All that information is out there. They're just putting out this valuable information for free that you guys can go and check out and learn if this is the right idea for you and how to go about it, and how to even start something like that. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to say, go there. I will have all their links, I promise you, down in the show notes, so that way you guys can find them and you guys can start educating yourself on that. And then we can revisit that conversation later on, maybe on the show, on another episode. Sorry. Everything just crouped up this morning. But Geno has 5 daughters. And I've never gotten to talk to another dad about just being a girl dad. And all of you know I'm a girl dad. And so I wanted to have this amazing conversation with him, because girl dads are different than when you have boys. There's different sets of rules. Geno also has a son, and so he's going to help us with some of that as well as we go. Now, we'll start at that point right there. Definitively, you have a boy and girls. Is there a difference in parenting and raising boys and girls?
I think there's a difference in raising every single child, and I think every single child is unique. And someone on my podcast said that, God gives you these children, and he gives you these children for a reason, because you can parent them. They're there and you can parent them. And I think, obviously, if people don't understand that there's a difference between a boy and a girl, I mean, my son at 6, 7 years old could not sit in his chair. We homeschool. I mean, thankfully, we didn't send him to school, because he probably would have been kicked out because he couldn't sit still, and he's not allowed to sit still. My son loves to shoot guns. He's 21 years old. He's got his FFL license. We just went shooting the other day. The girls like that, but he likes that. There's just a different kind of energy with boys, different conversations with boys. And for me, when I'm raising my son, I'm always want him to look at what I've done and have the relationship that I have with my daughters. And I think for him, it's been really good because he's been raised with 5 girls and he sees their temperaments and how they are. So when he's out, going and looking for his potential spouse, it's important because my wife, parents him, and he's always looking at the relationship that he has with her. So when he's going to get married, she's been a really great role model. But I think as girl dads, someone said it to me years ago, if you want to have really great daughters and you want them to really marry somebody who's great, well, the relationship that you have with them is going to affect the people that they choose later on in life. So, if you're treating them well and you're spending time with them and you really truly love them, I think chances are they're going to find somebody similar to you or similar to the attributes that you're putting forth.
I got a story I got to share with you. I had this guy I worked with, and I worked with him at 2 different job companies over the course of about 10 years of his life. When I met him, he was like just out of college, and us married guys would be having conversations and he kind of shy away, right? And then he got serious about a young woman and he started staying for those, but we started talking about kids and he's gone, like just make me an excuse. I was in his life long enough to see him get married and have his first child, and he had a little boy. I was so excited for him, and this total change in who he was occurred as he became a parent. But a couple years later, when Stone was about 2, I want to say, I came to work one morning and he was sitting on the edge of his desk right by my desk, and he's like, just kind of lost. I'm like, hello, you. I was like, Adam, are you okay? And he's like, I'm out there, totally zoned out. And I was like, yo, bro, are you okay? He's like, how do you even sleep at night? I went, I'm sorry, I need context here. And he said, Katie's pregnant. We're having a little girl. And I tried not to laugh. I set down my stuff. I said, yeah, and the whole world just changed, didn't it? He's like, every man is scum.
Including you, huh?
Right? I said, yeah, you will never look at another, younger woman the same again. You will never look at other men in your life the same way again.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, it's just, I like, he was already losing sleep. His wife was only barely pregnant enough to know the sex of the baby.
Mm-hmm.
It rocked his world entirely. He was like, his son, he was totally chill about that. But the minute he found out he was going to have a daughter, the world became scary.
It is challenging when you have daughters because there is a double standard possibly, and I think it is. But I mean, they're young. They're in society right now. You're in the city. They're taught not to trust their instincts. You're walking down the street. You see somebody who's a little scary. Well, you can't really think of it that way because you're being racist or homophobic or whatever phobic. But in reality, if your instincts are telling you to move across the side of the street, you do that. And that's what that's what I tell my daughters to do. Don't look at the color of this, but look at the context of where you are. If you feel uncomfortable, get out of that situation. Don't worry about what other people are going to think about you or tell you. And I think nowadays, what we're teaching our young kids nowadays, I don't agree with a lot of the stuff that is being taught.
What do you think specifically is the importance of a father's role in the life of a daughter?
Oh, that's a deep question. Really, for us starting out, you're a protector in the beginning, right? And then you're the role model, and you want to have a great relationship with each daughter. All 5 of my daughters are completely different. Sometimes you're there just to listen. I mean, I had a story about my daughter who's 24 now. She was 20 years old. I got into her room and she started talking to me and she started crying. I didn't really say a word. I didn't know what to say. But in that moment, a couple of weeks later, she opens up to me and says, that's all I needed you to do, just to be there and just to listen to me. And dads, we don't always have the answers, and that's okay. We're not supposed to have the answers, but we're there to be, I think, to be able to listen to them, to be a sounding board. As kids get older, we have to start increasing the boundaries, but they need to have boundaries. They need to have a little bit of discipline. I think in the early on, we are there to teach them what's right and what's wrong. And as they get older, we're not there to tell them what to do all the time. I think that's really important. As they get older, it's not like, well, you need to do this. Well, help them figure it out. And, a quick example is my daughter, who's 18 years old. She just got her licensed massage therapy. She's going on interviews. She's starting a business license. She's on Venmo. She's got bank accounts. I'm there to help her, but I don't want to tell her what to name her business. She's got two really great opportunities and jobs. I'm not there to tell her to take one versus the other. If you're a good parent, if you're a good quote unquote business or life coach, you're asking her questions because we all have the answers within us, but sometimes we're afraid to like really have those answers pulled out of us unless we are asked those questions. And I think that's what a great parent, a great father does. And I think ultimately, to be fallible as a parent, when you do make a mistake as a dad, it took me years and years to figure this out, but just to say sorry. We make mistakes all the time. And that is really hard, was really challenging for me to do when like, wow, you know what? I'm sorry. I made a mistake. And I think when kids see that, it boosts up their emotional intelligence. They're like, oh, wow, dad made mistakes and dad's sorry. Well, that gives them the idea that, okay, I'm fallible and I make mistakes as well. So when I get into these relationships, I have to have certain responsibility, and it's not always someone else's fault. It can be my fault as well.
I think that was one of the hardest and probably one of the most valuable lessons I had to learn when I became a parent was, once my kids hit a certain age, right? Because when they're little, they're not going to understand, period.
Yes.
Right? But once they hit a certain age, learning to say I'm sorry when I responded too quickly to something I walked in on, right? Came in and one of the girls is, beating on the other or whatever. I'm raising wolves. My mom likes to give me a lot of grief. She's like, oh yeah, they're your daughters. I'm raising wolves. They're wild childs. They're little tomboys, but their mom was a tomboy too. So, so they're a little more rough and tumble than some girls are. And, when I walked in and the older one's beating on the younger one for some reason, right? Just that quick fire off. Got him. And then I got to apologize. Like, wait, no, I jumped to conclusion. I didn't hear what was going on. Yes, we needed to stop that situation, but I shouldn't have escalated so quickly. Learning to do that with my daughters was so hard. Learning to do that with children is hard, period.
I'll give you a quick story. You said about an embarrassing story. It's about a year ago, and it's my fourth child. She's blonde, like my wife. She's really stubborn. Like, she's the kind of person that, like, you're walking down the street during COVID, you got to have masks on. She would not wear a mask. She'd be getting yelled at. She does not want authority. You have to give her a good reason why she needs to follow a rule or a law. And she's really stubborn, which is good, which is going to serve her really well in life because she's not going to be taken advantage of. She's not going to be a pushover. Early on, as an adult, you're like, would you just listen to authority? But as you're like thinking about it, you're like, well, you're going to be okay. No one's going to take advantage of you. So she's in the kitchen one day, and she's a great cook. She's making meatballs. And I go in there and I'm like, the bowl's too small. You have to do, and I'm trying to take over. And then we get into this really big shouting match. And I realized at that point, and my wife pointed out to me, that I wasn't really getting mad at her so far. So for say, I was getting more mad at myself because I was in a bad state that day. I had a tough day at work. I brought it home. And to have that awareness of, you're not really getting mad at her, you're taking it out on her because of the situation you're in. So understand where you are. And then from there, it took me a good hour or two to go and say, hey, listen, you're right. I'm sorry. I tried to control that situation. You needed a little help, but I'm the expert here. And that was really, really damaging to the ego. But I think ultimately she saw that and she's like, oh, right, Dad, cool. I really appreciate that. But it took a little bit of time. It took a little bit of effort. And it was embarrassing. When I think about that story, it's embarrassing to think about how I acted, yelling at a 14-year-old about meatballs. I mean, really? But it wasn't about the meatballs. It was about the state that I was in, right? What people say is about them. What you hear is about you. So at that time, I heard defiance. I heard I'm doing it my way. And what was wrong with that? She's the one that was making them. I was just trying to teach her my way. Is my way the better way? It may or may not be. But instead of lending a hand and helping her the way she needs to be helped, I tried to control the situation, and that didn't not end up well.
It's amazing the perspective you gain with some age and time, right?
Oh yeah.
Embarrassing stories. Like I'll tell you anything about all of my younger years. There isn't anything that's off limits. It doesn't embarrass me. I could care less. What embarrasses me at 44 are the stupid mistakes I made as a husband and the stupid mistakes I made as a father, where I'm just like, that's just embarrassing, because I was just so out of line, right? One of the things I shared with one of my friends at one point, when he had little ones, I was like, the minute you engage in an argument with a 4-year-old, you already lost, right?
Yes.
You cannot reason with hostage takers, and 4-year-olds will hold you emotionally hostage. There's just there's no logic there. You lost just because they got you to argue.
Yes.
Right? They're 4. Like, you can't reason this out.
You can't reason it. You can't reason it with 40-year-olds nowadays. Can you imagine a 4-year-old? There's no reason anymore.
How do you feel about societal pressures to look a certain way? I know one of the things that hits home with me is like beauty standards, and what the world is telling my daughters is what they should look like and how they should act.
I'm very fortunate in that respect. We homeschool the kids from the beginning, when homeschooling was not hip. I mean, we started back in 2002, 2003. I mean, we were the weird people on the block. My wife had 4 home births. We homeschooled, and we're people of faith. We're Catholic Christians, and I mean, for us, my kids have really deep faith, and it doesn't even come up as an issue for us. They wouldn't dress a certain way just out of disrespect. So for me, that's not even an issue. That's really pretty much off the table for me. But it's got to be difficult. I mean, when you're and the other thing is, you see these cell phones here. We wait till the kids are like 14 or 15 years old to get cell phones. That's what they do. I have a 13-year-old who's having a birthday on Tuesday. She's going to turn 13. She's probably going to wait another year or 2 before she gets her cell phone, before she gets service. And when they get on, it's going to be controlled. I'm not going to have her get on an Instagram account or a Facebook account. It's really hard for parents who send their kids to school, because it's all over your face. It's all over the place. The only thing I can say is try to spend as much time as possible. One thing we do, when COVID hit back in 2020, we started watching TV shows at nighttime. So we'd all get together, and I'd have to watch something age appropriate. The first show was Chuck. Then it was White Collar. Then it was Burn Notice. Then we watched The Mentalist. But we watched stuff together. And I think that really helped and really bonded and really cemented the relationship. Try to spend as much time with your kids. And, if you're watching stuff and you're looking at stuff that you don't want them to, it's going to be hard. They're going to call you a hypocrite, like we were talking about the governor of California. Don't be a hypocrite. Kids can smell it. They're going to do the total opposite.
We've actually recently started instituting some changes in the house, because we usually wind down the night with a sitcom or two, or I've got all the old recordings of Mythbusters.
My kids love that show.
Right. Yeah. And so we've been, as they've gotten older, we've scaled which shows they get to watch with us in the evenings. But I've noticed, like, okay, my youngest is really, my oldest will stick her head in a book very happily. My youngest is really starting to want to lean into screen. So I'm actively working on pulling that back at this point.
Yes.
So, like, last night we had our first family game night, where there was no screens, there was no television. I set up the card table in the middle of the living room, and we sat around and played games the entire night.
That's awesome.
Bed. That we started turning off the television earlier and reading chapters out of the book together. My daughters will read part of the chapter, then I'll finish it up or something. But we're going through Harry Potter together as a family, because I have an addictive personality. So I had to cut back years ago. It was one of the smartest things I ever did, was I started cutting back. I audited my time. It was like, I'm losing so much time watching television shows.
Yes.
Every week, keeping up with these 8 or 9 shows I'm watching. That is all I do after work. And so I really started cutting that back. And now, as my kids are getting old, I'm like, okay, we need to scale some of this here and there. I don't want them automatically turning to a screen. They've got tablets, but they get to use them. If I'm recording, they can't turn on the television or something, and they have TV time, or if they're on like trip in the car.
Mm-hmm.
That was for my wife's sake. She made a trip from Washington to California when my parents lived in California, like on the road with my daughters.
Oh yeah.
It's like, tablets and headphones for both of you. Yay.
Well, it's interesting because when my first daughter was born in 99, we didn't have that in the car for the first 10 or 12 years. So the older children are a little different than the younger children. Not that they're not addicted, but they didn't need that. And it's interesting. And it's more for us parents, because sometimes we just need some time alone and quiet time. And it's very hard for me to get that quiet time. And it's interesting. It's hard to find shows nowadays where you can share with them, but go back and look at the Monks, look at the Sykes, those shows back in the early 2000s, mid 2000s. We watched Flashpoint, a lot of these different shows on Prime and all. There's some really great shows out there that you can watch. And listen, I was the same way as you, man. During the 2011-12, I was addicted to news. I'd watch O'Reilly. I mean, it was just amazing the amount of time that I wasted. Your input shapes your outlook. And if your input is all these messages, all this negativity, what ends up happening? I mean, your outlook is going to be really affected. So just be careful where you're spending your time and your energy. Great example that you gave before.
Was there a difference between your sons and your daughters? You said very, very correctly, all kids are individual. So very individual. The personality is, so I think that's one of the fun things as a dad is watching your kids' personalities develop and then become very unique people. Was there major differences in, being there for your daughters when they were upset or struggling on something as opposed to your son, or is it just as individual as the kid?
It may be as individual as the kid, but I was fortunate. My son's a really great kid, like really. I mean, he's excellent. I mean, he's a smart kid. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of, when he needed me, like when he was in college. That was the story I was telling you before. He was doing this accounting and it was really challenging. And he came home one day and he started crying. And that is like one of the worst feelings as a parent, when you feel helpless and you're trying to help them, but you know that you need to have them figure it out. And he ultimately figured it out, but it's very difficult. And you try to tell them what to do, you try to help him out, but he needs to ultimately end up failing. And right now he's contemplating doing missionary work full time after he graduates college. He's going to go with a company called Life Teen in the summer from May till July. But then he's thinking in September to go for another year, and be on their missions team and travel. And I'm like, I'm trying to push him to do that actually, because that would be an amazing experience, because you're not working yet. You're problem solving. You're living with other people. You're on the road. You're around people who you want to be around, like really great young adults. And for me, that's one of those instances where I'm trying to nudge him to do that, because I think that's something that will just affect the rest of your life. Because he's like, oh, maybe when I go to work, then I'll do it. I'm like, Mike, once you start going to the real world and you get into work, it's really hard to go back and do missionary work. So my daughter, who's older than him, did it for a year and a half. She loved it. And I'm like, you know what? She loved it. I think you'd enjoy it too. But as far as the daughters, I think as men, we just go into problem solving and solution mode. You've got a problem, I'll fix it for you. Whereas a lot of times our spouses, our wives just want to talk and just want to be heard, and they don't want to have a solution. So what you can say is, hey, is this something that I can help you out with, or do you just need me to listen to you? And I'm still working on that. And it's a really hard thing to do, because like, you got a problem. I've got 15 employees and 1,500 apartment units. I need to solve the problem. I don't have time to waste here. Oh, you just need me to listen. Great. What's going on? So it's very hard. And it's the same thing with your kids. Sometimes they just need somebody to listen to.
I got in trouble the first time I asked my wife. It's like, wait, pause. Am I listening or fixing it?
Well, that's not fixing. So you're denoting that something's broken with her. So that's like the worst word to use, right?
Well, she was fussing about something going on at work.
Uh-huh.
Right. And she knows my inclination is I'm
Yes.
I'm a team lead. I'm a supervisor. It's my job to fix problems.
Yes.
And so I was like, wait, work related. Am I listening to you talk about what's bothering you at work, or am I fixing what's going on at work for you?
Mhm.
And she was so mad. I was like, hey, we went through a whole marriage class on this recently. I was like, this is what they said to do, man. She's like,
It's in the manual.
it's different when it's practical. But yeah, it's one of the things I'm struggling to do with my daughters. I have a very big personality. I'm a big guy. I'm very loud. And so I'm having to deal with some of those differences when I deal with my daughters, right?
Mhm.
I don't have to yell. If I sound stern, both my daughters are in tears,
Mhm.
which is hard for me because I'm loud, right? So I'm having to learn to slow down even more before I talk to them because I don't have to. My daughter was like, I don't like it when you yell. I was like, you've never heard me yell, honey.
Mhm.
Like, really, you have never. When I yell, it's the cartoon with the head exploding and leveling the
Yes.
floors. Like, I'm used to dealing with fairly intensive individuals. You you haven't heard me yell.
Well, maybe you should have them. Maybe you should let them hear you yell and see the difference. Because I'm Italian, so we tend to use our hands a lot when we speak.
Mhm.
And me and my wife will have conversations, and they think we're arguing. Well, we're not really arguing; we're just discussing something. So for years, the kids would have thought we were fighting. So maybe you should let them hear you yell and say, "This is how I yell." My kids know when I yell as well. Like that meatball thing. I blew up. I went nuts. And sometimes you have to do that. Not in that instance, but sometimes they need to hear a different state because that's what happens in the real world. People are going to yell at you in the real world. Stuff's going to happen that you're not going to like. That's going to make you feel uncomfortable, and
Mhm.
that's okay. You're going to have teachers yelling at you. I mean, I used to work in the kitchen. People yell and curse and scream in the kitchen.
Right.
That's just the reality. If you can't handle it, you're going to have a tough life.
Oh yeah. No, I worked in the IT industry for 10 years. At one of my jobs, I was the desk flipping lead. I'm the guy who will go and just toss, like, just get pissed and flip the whole table full of crap all over the place, kick a file cabinet across the room. My file cabinet at my desk actually had a dent in it from where I kicked it multiple times because one of my jobs was dealing with our customers,
Mm-hmm.
which weren't like external facing customers like most people think when they think customers.
Yes.
We were an internal service for the multiple properties of the company we served.
Mm-hmm.
And all of them thought they were more important than every other property in the company.
Mm-hmm.
And so part of my job was the workflow and dealing with customers calling in and like, well, we need you to do this now. It's like, well, we have an agreement. We have 48 hours to take care of your request. Well, you got to just now. Do you understand? I have 200 other tickets in my queue right now. And there
Mm-hmm.
are 3 of us. So no, that's not happening. And so I
Mm-hmm.
spent half my night arguing with these internal customers. Thank God for uh, service level agreements. SLAs saved me in that job. But yeah, I was that guy, and so my daughter's like, baby, you've never seen daddy get really upset and let loose because just me getting intense like will bring them to tears.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, we're gonna have to work on that
Mm-hmm.
because you can't that can't push you into that state.
Well, you can't because that when you start doing that, if you think what happens to them as children, as they become adults, they may not want to get into some type of conflict. They may avoid that conflict with their spouse. When they see their spouse getting a little bit angry, they may defer. They may not stick up for themselves. So that's something that we have to be careful of as well when we're interacting with our children.
Guys, we've been discussing raising daughters and differences in raising sons and daughters, and just raising daughters and kids in general. And the next part of the show, we're going to give some great advice for girl dads and parents in general. Gino has 6 kids. He's got a lot of experience in this. And what's the range? Because I know you said you have in the 20s. What's the youngest one?
24 to 9-year-old.
Wow. Okay, so you are dealing with the full spectrum here. This is awesome.
Yes. Yeah.
So Gino, you've got the 6 kids across a full spectrum. In this part of the show, we just want to share some of the most valuable parenting lessons for dads out there, whether it's with your daughters, if you've got something that's more specific to them, or just in general, some of the most valuable parenting experience we can share with our audience today.
I think we've been talking about it a lot on the show, and there's a fine line. And I'd mentioned the quote, you want to prepare the child for the road. You don't want to prepare the road for the child. And I really, truly believe as parents, it's our job to really provide a safe, loving environment for them to thrive and to really become what they're meant to be and what gifts they are, what gifts they each have, because they're all different. One of my children is really smart. I mean, she's a better reader than me. She's 13 years old. The other one could care less about school. She abhors school, but she's such an athlete, and she's so has so many different skills. Like my wife, she's just a smart person. I think parenting each child to what their gifts are. And what I found to be really hard, Brent, is as the kids were getting older, I wanted to look good in front of people. I wanted my kids to go to college and be doctors and lawyers and take over the business. When in reality, that's I'm embarrassed to even think about that right now, but that's how we're programmed in society is, hey, our kids are a reflection of us. If they become really successful, that means we did something right. And I don't buy into that anymore. If you guys want to go to college, great, let's do it. If you want to become a licensed massage therapist, great. If you want to get into missionary work, great. If you want to get into theology and philosophy, great. You have to choose. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'll help you out. I think that's probably the hardest thing as parents, to sit back, to watch them, and to not tell them what to do. And when they need help, give them the help.
I would agree that sitting back and letting your kids make some of their own choices. That's I'm at this interesting spot, right?
Yes.
Is the 9-year-old will be 10 this summer. And the 12-year-old is already as independent as I will let her be. But I think one of the things I'm struggling with as a dad.
Yes.
Is I will be the first person to admit I'm hyper overprotective.
Well, define hyper overprotective, because for me, my kids never really slept over anybody's house. I think maybe grandma. Actually, they slept over grandma's last night. But friend's house, I mean, why put them in a situation like that? I mean, that to me may be hyper overprotective for a lot of people, but it's not. They didn't do sleepover camp until one of them was 16 years old, and they actually went to a camp where there were nuns. I mean, like it was a religious camp, and she was 16 years old at the time. Is that hyper overprotective? It may be, but that's our job is to keep them safe. So, I mean, can you define hyper overprotective to me?
Anything like that has been a major discussion. They have had collectively 2 sleepovers apiece, and only one of those times was outside the house. They've had a friend sleepover.
Friends, yes, yeah, I'm good with that. Yes, and even cousins, like my brother's kids, they'll have sleepover with my brother's kids. That's one thing, but you just don't. And it's not even the friends. The friends may have other friends that come over. It's not there, So when you have 3 or 4, you can't control that environment. And when you're 9 or 10 or 12 or 14 years old, you don't have the emotional intelligence to figure those situations out. So why would I want to put my child who's young in that situation? It's okay to say no, and to be the bad guy. I've done it multiple times. So it's one of those things, right? As a parent, we all have our own different styles and our own different methodologies. But for me, that's what served me. That's what's worked really well for me. And now it's interesting. My kids, they've left the house, and now they want to come back home. And like my 24-year-old's back at home with me, and she's going to a massage therapist as well. And she likes to stay at home. She likes to be part of the family. And it's interesting. That's ultimately what I want. I want my kids to be able to come back. And hey, if you want to stay and live at home, I'd love it. I'm buying other properties for you guys, but that's what you want. You want to have that kind of environment where, hey, you want to be home. You want to be part of the family. And it's just, I just love it. I just love having the kids home. It's just, to me, it's great.
See, I'm slow to let them do some of the things they should do on their own. And I think part of it is hyper overprotective, and part of it is I want to do those things for them. I love being a dad.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I want to take care of this. I want to do this for them because I love taking care of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes I think I struggle with going back and forth on that line. It's like, am I doing this because I don't trust them to do it? Or am I doing this because I haven't taught them to do it yet? Or am I doing this because I'm afraid of them doing it? Right.
Well, one of the things that you're instilling in them is you're instilling that later on in life, they may look for a guy who's going to take care of them, who's going to nurture them. So that there's one of the ways that you can look at it is that you're the role model. They can look up to dad. So when they start looking for men, they're not going to look for men who are going to abuse them or who are going to neglect them. They're going to look for somebody who's going to nurture them. And I think we've gotten a bad rap as men, like, this whole toxicity thing. But that's what our role is. Our role is we're nurturers, we're protectors. That's what I think a woman wants. That's what when I speak to my wife, I'm there. You need something, I'm there to protect. I'm there to provide. And it's worked really well for us. And I think our daughters see the relationship that we have. And I'm hoping that they seek the same thing in a man. I want my son-in-law to take my daughters and to protect them, to provide for them, and to have a great relationship with them. So I think you're doing the right thing.
See, one of my goals as a father has always been to be Superman. That's one of my biggest goals, because I want to set the bar so high that the lowest standard of the guy that they bring into the house will be a pretty decent guy.
Yes.
Right? I want their first boyfriends to be terrified because dad could snap you in half like a pencil because he's jacked and huge and physically fit in his 40s. And right, I want to set that bar so high. This is what my children expect men to be like. They're healthy, they're active, they're involved, they can cook, they can take care of themselves, right? So I look at the standard of, how am I treating their mother? Right? How do I treat my wife in front of them? What do they see?
Yes.
What do they hear? How I talk to her, how I interact with her. Because that is the standard they're going to follow.
Yes.
I think it's one of the greatest gifts as dads we can give our daughters and our sons. I don't have a son, but right, you are setting that bar for your spouse, your kids' relationships. You're showing your son how to treat a woman. You're showing your daughters how a woman should be treated by someone who says they love her. And so I think that's one of the things that we do as dads that is a very unique thing. Now, obviously, our wives are teaching our kids, how to interact as well. But I think there's a bar that is set, since men generally lead in a lot of relationships, by dad setting that standard. How do you focus on quality time with your kids? Because you've got a lot going on with business, right? You've got your company and everything else you're doing, and you've got 6 kids, which means they all want your attention. How do you focus on spending quality time with your children?
Before I answer that, you made a really great point before you moved on. And you can look at where we are in society right now, and all of the problems that society stems from is from the dissolution of the family, the holy family, husband and wife. They're cleaved together. They have differences, but they work so well together. And I think you can look back at it. Back in the 1960s, before the civil rights passed, 75% of Black households had a father and a mother. How is it now? It's 75% are single parents. And single parents, it's such a tough job, mentally, emotionally, financially. And you're growing up without a dad in the home. So you don't know how to act as a young son because you don't have that role model. So all the dads out there, you have such an important job to do. That family unit is so important. And every problem that I see in society nowadays stems from it. If we can't teach our kids about self-love, about loving ourselves, how are they going to go out and love another human being? And I think you have to show that with your husband and wife. Once you have that relationship, you said that's so important. So just put that on the top of your mind. I mean, think about that as you go throughout the day, how important of a job you have at that family unit. And, everyone's watching, not only your kids, but there's other people out in the world that are watching. Because people are always saying to me, but you got a pretty, cool dynamic, cool relationship. Your kids are really great. It takes a lot of work, a lot of hard work. And to answer your question, it's intentional. I mean, you really have to spend time with each one of them. I have a friend, his name is Jim Shields. He wrote 18 Summers. It's a great book. You have 18 summers with your children, basically, before they leave the house. And he has something called his boardroom meetings, where every quarter, every 3 months, he has his children pick a special day. And it's all about them. What do they like? What do they want to do? And he spends the 3 or 4 or 5 hours every 3 months with them, just specifically on a date. Now, what I did last week, my daughter is having her birthday next week, as I had mentioned, and I know she likes to cook. So I went to Sur La Table. I got cooking classes for the two of us, $170. Best $170 I spent in a while. We spent 4 hours making macaroons. She loves to bake. I think you need to be intentional and put it on the calendar. They've got volleyball tonight at 5 o'clock and 7:45. I'm going to those games. They all play games together. There's certain times where you need to spend and find out what they like. It's not what you like. I mean, one of my daughters, she likes to garden. So I spend time gardening and doing, flowers with her. Find out what they like and spend the time with them. And for myself, being an entrepreneur, all of a sudden I've got Jake and Geno and I've got these other businesses. When I had the restaurant, they'd come in and work with me. I mean, I think for me, there's no really separation. There's just a balance where family life and being an entrepreneur and involving them in your business and letting them help you edit videos early on and let them help you at the events that you have and let them be part of your book writing process. Involving them in your businesses is another great way to involve them in your life.
I was trying to explain this to my youngest daughter the other day because she made a comment. She was like, "Hey, can we do this?" And I mean, she was basically asking me to go sit and watch TV with her, right? And she's like, "Well, you do stuff with Abby." I was like, "Baby, I do stuff with you too." She's like, "Well, you go for walks with her." Abby gets up and goes with me. You don't want to get up at 4:15 and go with me. 4:15 in the morning when it's still cold and it's still dark. My youngest is my wife. They're both slow wake up, sleep a little later, right?
Mm-hmm.
And ease into the morning. My oldest has picked up my ability to just jump up and go, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're up and out the door and moving, and we'll figure it out as we go. It's just life. It's like, baby, you don't want to do that. I would go and do that without Abby. It's more fun with her, but I would go and do it without her. She chooses to get up and do that.
Mm-hmm.
There's that difference in the child's personalities, right?
Yes.
I love what you said about putting it on the calendar. We have a daddy-daughter night every week. It's the two of my girls. It's both of them together. It's not a separate, but it's both of them together and me. And that is on my calendar as a reoccurring occurrence every single week. I don't answer phone calls. I don't answer emails. I don't do work. From 4 o'clock till they go to bed, it's them. And we might go get yogurt or go to the park or watch a movie and eat popcorn, or there's usually some kind of special treat involved, and we're doing something together.
Mm-hmm.
And that might mean me being in the center of the couch with both of them curled up against me watching movies, but that's their time. And they love the fact, because I have one of those what do you call them? They're the Amazon picture frame looking Alexa device.
Yeah.
This got my calendar on it in my office, and they can walk in and look at the calendar and go, "Oh yeah, okay, Dad's coming to this," because their events are on it. And, "Oh, you're doing that? I didn't know you were going to be gone for that." It's like, "Yeah, baby, I got this on there," right? So they can see my schedule, but they can also see then they're on my schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been really important to them as we've done this thing with the fallible man. And this is a lot of time consumption. They look at it and go, "Yep, no, we're on there. We're good." Right. we know dad's busy today, but this afternoon, that's us. And so I think that's something incredibly valuable that you can pass on to your kids. I'm just trying to imagine like keeping up and having individual quality time with 2 girls, much less 6 kids.
As they get older, and the time, as they get older, the older kids do need less time. They have more things going on. But I think how I can judge my success is that my 24-year-old actually still wants to go on vacation with us. When we go on vacation, the word vacate is to leave, to go somewhere. And we've never gone on vacation without them. Very rarely. We went to Italy the last 2 years. There's 8 of us on that plane. It's like you got to take out a mortgage. And we get to Italy. My mom's got a house, but we rent this transit van there. But the 24-year-old's like, yeah, I'm coming. It's not even a thought in her mind. So she's part of the family. I mean, and that's what you're building. That's what you're fostering. They're going to leave the family eventually, but they still want to be part of it. They're still going to come back. And that's how you build a relationship. And I think it takes years to do that. And what you're doing is really great. They understand that there's certain time that they can spend with you, and that's quality time for them. I don't think quantity time. I think you need quality time more than quantity, because when you're spending quality time, you're actually focused on them. Your devices are off. You're not talking about anything else. You're spending time with them and you're listening to them. And I think that's what people have to focus on. And what you're doing is going to help you in the future with your children as well.
Quality. That's one of those words we miss these days.
On everything.
And that's something you have to do with your spouse as well, is especially when you've got a lot going on. My wife and I have learned the value of 30 minutes, right? We have just 30 minutes. We'll go get a cup of coffee together. And that may be our bigger interaction for a day or two. But for those 30 minutes, it's us, right? Yep. We've put everything else down and it's just us. That's something we have to fight for sometimes. But you're going to have to fight for time with your kids. Because later, it's a different fight for time with your kids if you haven't laid that groundwork.
Yes, great point. Excellent point. Thanks for sharing that.
Right. So, Gino, what has been the most impactful thing you think you've done with your kids to build this relationship?
I wouldn't say so much what I've done. I think what we've done as a family, and I think it's the homeschooling aspect of it. For us, I had a tough time at the restaurant. I had a really crappy schedule. I was working on the weekends. So if they went to school, I'd never see them because I'm working, I'm off during the week, but I'm working on the weekends, and be vice versa. So we decided to homeschool. And what it really did was it really created a great relationship amongst themselves. They love hanging out with each other. That's really strange for people, but the 9-year-old likes to hang out with the 24-year-old. And my son will hang out with the 13-year-old. It's not even an issue. So for us, homeschooling really completely changed the dynamic of the household. And, for me, for years, when I had the restaurant, I would homeschool them in the morning. So 45 minutes I would spend with a couple of them before I went to work. And that really built the relationship further. And I know my oldest daughter likes history because I would do history with her, and I actually would do some catechism work with her. So I learned about my faith as well, which was really cool. But if you can't do that and you're not, you don't have the time. For me, the other thing that was really impactful was carving out time weekly. It's almost like date night. I think that's what you really need to do with your kids. And there's different seasons of it, but I love to put the kids to bed at nighttime as well. That's something that I did with each child. And it was challenging for me because, every 3 years we're having another kid. So when the kid was 3 years old, he gravitated to me. The newborn went to mom. So that's when and you need to have patience. It was very challenging. The young kids were nursing with mom. They had wanted nothing to do with dad. And that was an ego hit. It's like, this is my child. But you know what? As time got on, it was okay. But spending that quality time, for me, that quality time at nighttime, I still play Barbie with the 9-year-old. So we play Barbies. I mean, that's something that we do. I mean, like, do I want to play Barbies? And it's one of those things as a dad. Sometimes you're just doing things. Do I want to go watch a 9-year-old play volleyball tonight? Let's be honest. It's pretty boring. And we feel guilty about that. But that's our responsibility as parents, and it's okay. And I go there, I sacrifice my time. Obviously, I want to watch her, but in the grand scheme of things, let's be honest. Like watching 9-year-olds play volleyball can be pretty freaking painful. But we do that as parents. We have to sacrifice. And it's a good sacrifice because later on in life, they'll remember that you were there for them.
Playing dolls with your daughter is a rite of passage for any girl dad.
It really is.
I literally have painted toenails right now.
I have Kenny Boy and I have Eugene Fitzherbert. Those are my two dolls. So she's got Pale Ellen Bell. That's her $3. So
I've got mismatched toenails because one daughter did one and one daughter did the other. Yeah, there are certain things I always laugh. You ever see those pictures of like these big burly guys in a tutu having tea with his daughter?
Yes.
I'm like, yes. That is the mark of a girl dad right there.
That really is.
I actually walked into work one day with a little bit of clear nail polish and some sparkles on my nails. And one of the guys, funny because we have security that you have to go through at the facility I used to work at. And one of the guys was like, couldn't settle on a color this morning, huh? So you just went with clear. I looked him square in the eye and said, my 3-year-old did that. And this big security guard instantly just, oh my God, so cute, right? It's melted instantly that my child had done this. And I was secure enough and proud enough to walk in wearing it to my job. But it was like, dude, when your daughter asks you to do this, you just do it. Right?
Yes, I agree.
That special power of having kids. Yeah, and I sympathize with volleyball. I've been watching basketball and soccer for years now.
Right? It's painful.
Oh, God. Like little kid soccer.
Yeah.
Like herding cats.
It really is.
Swarm following the ball. That's all it is.
Yeah.
But those things you do, right?
That's right.
Now, Gino, what's the next big project you're on? And it doesn't have to be a parenting project, right? What's the next big project for Gino? You've already got so much going on.
We're going to Ireland the 23rd to the 29th, me and my wife. We're working with a gentleman named Phil McKernan. It's Brave Leader. And what I've been working with Phil for the last couple of years. I don't know what you call Phil. You can call him a clarity coach, life coach. But what I think his genius is that he gets you to work on yourself. He gets you to look at your childhood. Then he makes you look at your present. And then, hey, what does your future look like? Because if you're building an empire, are you building it for the right reasons? Are you doing things? We're just so pre-programmed and we're not really aware of our lives. And we as men especially don't look at our emotions. It's okay to be angry. But what do we do with anger? We suppress it. We push it down. And then one day it just explodes. But why are we getting angry? We don't even know why we're doing certain things. And for me, for any man out there, I think we really need to explore our emotions more. We need to sit with our emotions a little bit. We need to understand why we're doing certain things. And it's not neither right nor wrong, but just understand why you're getting mad. Why did I get mad at my daughter for making meatballs that way? I mean, why did I have to be right? You know, why am I so sensitive sometimes with my family? Well, maybe it's because I was picked on when I was younger, or my mom was such an authoritarian and she told me to do things all the time. So exploring your childhood, looking how your values were created, I think that's really important. And it will help you become a much better dad and a better spouse as well. So that's what's on the horizon for me. Just continue to work on myself, having that self-improvement, right? I think that's important. And I'm just lucky to be working with a guy like Phil.
Where is the best place for people to connect with you?
Just go to jakeandgeno.com. And if you want to learn more about the Julia and Geno show, just go to juliaandgeno.com.
Okay. Now, guys, Geno has a whole lot more that he can share with you, that he can offer you, that he can point you in, especially in business sense. If you're interested in investing in real estate, that's something he can help you with. But I'm loving this conversation because Geno can offer you a whole lot more than just business. Okay. This man has a lot of depth. I knew I wanted to talk to him. I'm so glad you've been on the show, that you're here with us today, because I think you have an incredible depth of knowledge, not just in business. I love that you're doing some personal development stuff too. You're going to change lives in a positive way. And so be sure and connect with him. I'll have, of course, all that information down below where you can connect with him. and all his links. I know all of you are really worried about who played the actress Jessica Day in the TV show New Girl. You were right. It was Zooey Deschanel. Congratulations.
Wow. What a lucky guess, brother.
Swing and a hit. Yeah. Right. Now, wrap out the show. If our audience heard nothing else today, what's the most important takeaway you want them to hear?
Wow. I would really just have to say, be there for your children and just listen to them. And really, you want to build up their self-esteem because you really want them to love themselves. Because if they love themselves, it'd be a lot easier to love other people.
Awesome. Guys, for Gino and myself, thanks for hanging out with us today. Be better tomorrow because of what you do today, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks, Brent.
This has been the Fallible Man Podcast, your home for everything man, husband, and father. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a show. Head over to www.thefallibleman.com for more content and get your own Fallible Man gear.